morning, whatever it is. So here I've got my sawmill set up and ready to run. I'm going to walk you through it and kind of show you what I've done, what I've made, just so you understand what I've done or and how I did it. So the first thing are these the saw ponies. Down here, I made these saw ponies just from some elm that I cut down on my property. I need to clear a little bit of room out to put in an orchard. So I want to be able to use that lumber for something. So these are kind of small for boards. These are all mortise and tenon all the way through. There's no nails, there's no pegs or anything like that. It's just the mortise and tenon that holds them together. They're extremely strong. I actually dropped this. This is like a 18-inch, 16 or 18-inch. It's just a pine. It's incredibly heavy. I had a really hard time getting it up there and dropped it on there, and it didn't have any problem handling the weight at all. It held, it didn't budge. The first set of ponies that I made, which are these, I kind of took my time on them. You know, it was the first ones that I'd ever cut, so they're nice and tight. They fit together well. The second set of ponies that I made, which are right back here, you'll see on the cuts, they just don't fit as smoothly. These are just a little bit looser. Even all the way down on the feet down here, they're a little bit looser, and I had to actually put pegs in to hold it in place just so it didn't slip around as much. Still incredibly strong. Still really impressed with the durability of timber framing and that type of building technique. It was my first shot at it. I rushed myself on the second set, which is why they didn't look as good as the first set, but I'm still really happy with them regardless. The next thing is the sawmill itself. So that's part of the sawmill, but the actual saw itself, I set up. I have a Timber Pro 62cc chainsaw. Thanks to Loves to Boat 92 for that. He introduced me to that through his videos. I was initially going to buy a Chinese clone chainsaw, or just a Chinese chainsaw. It's like a $100 chainsaw. I was afraid that the quality of it just wasn't going to be what I needed, and plus the largest one on that I could find that looked like it was decent was 45cc, and I didn't think it was going to be big enough to continually cut my own lumber with it. So he introduced me to that, to the Timber Pro, and I found it, and I absolutely love the saw. I don't have enough good things to say about it. I mean, it's just everything about it is just a fantastic saw. So the chainsaw mill itself here, this is obviously the saw. This is the guide for the saw. The guide has two lag bolts that go all the way through the bar. Let's see, down here. The bar is down here. I've drilled a hole here and a hole here all the way through the bar. The lag bolt goes up and through it, and then between the bar and the guide I have measured blocks. So you'll see on here it's inch and a half blocks. That way it gives me an even cutting surface. The first cut that I cut off the log, I use 2x4s, and you'll see it here in a second, right over here. I use 2x4s, and I nail the 2x4s to the top of the log until I use a level and kind of eyeball it to make sure I've got a nice, what looks like a good long flat surface. And that's on my initial cut. That 2x4 is what the top of the chainsaw guide rides on. So it'll ride on that 2x4 all the way down until I get to the end of the log, and then the whole first slab comes off of the log. 2x4s are still attached to it, just nailed with little short, like 1.5-inch nails, 2-inch nails. So that comes off, and then once that comes off, then I'm left, as you'll see, with this nice long clean surface. So I no longer need that 2x4, you know, whatever lumber else I would use on there. So now I have a clean flat surface for the chainsaw mill to ride on. So as I start to cut this, I just continue to push on the saw, and it continues to go all the way down the length of this log, and it's nice and flat. When I'm doing that, that's why I use these 1.5-inch blocks. That gives me an 1.5-inch board. So by the time I'm done cutting, I'll have an 1.5-inch board, the length of this log and the width of this log. This particular log is much larger, So I don't know if you can really see, but let's see here. So it doesn't look really like I'm going to be able to make it. It looks like the log is actually wider than what I can fit between these two boards. So I'm actually going to stop this cut. I need to sharpen my blade anyway, sharpen the chain anyhow, and adjust the rakers. And then I'm actually going to take another cut and rotate this over. I'm going to take a cut off of this side, and that way I'll be able to fit the lumber that I'm cutting into the chainsaw mill itself. That's the basics of it. That's how it works. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, it works for me. I was able to build it myself. I couldn't really find any designs online that I could complete and that I could make without a welder. I'm not a welder. I don't know welding very well. I know the basics of it, but not well enough to be able to build something with it. On top of that, I don't own a welder, so I was left to creating something on my own. So this is what I came up with. I hope you enjoy it. You'll see in the next video me actually cutting with it and making my own lumber. Thanks.